So I'm just going to kind of read through this, and if there's like a prompt, you guys are like, wait, stop, let's talk about this one, then we can. Otherwise, I'm just going to kind of scroll through it for right now. So I'm going to read the introduction. It says, we're going to talk about grief. It is one of the most profound human experiences and one of the most difficult to understand. I think that calls for you to know a little bit about me, your guide. Brew yourself a hot cup of something and get cozy. My name is Dominique, and I'm in my 30s. I run a blog website that's all about self-care, self-love, and mental health. I am so fascinated by our humanness. I love figuring out why and how we process things and how we can do things in different and healthier ways. Coping skills and self-care are my favorite, and I love sharing with other people how they've made my life better. When I write about these things, some of it is technical and academic, information gathered from reading and researching, but most of the time I'm heart-led. What this means is that I'm guided by wisdom and empathy inside of me. It doesn't come from any training, it's just a knowing. I know this sounds a bit woo-woo, and I know it's not for everyone. That's okay. But if you want solid coping skills and advice that come from a compassionate and empathetic place, I'm your human. I can't say that I know a lot about grief. I'm not an expert. It's one of those things that we all kind of muddle through. One of those personal growth lessons we wish that we could avoid. Almost a year to the day of starting to write this, my mother passed away, and as I'm editing and finishing it, I'm processing the death of my friend Tiana. It hasn't been an easy year, but I've learned things from it, and I want to try my best to put those things into meaningful words that can help you too. When one of my readers asked me many months ago if I could write about grief in workbook form, I knew I wasn't ready. I said I'd think about it, and that's what I've been doing, thinking about it. I'm not sure that I feel any more ready than I was then. There is one thing that I do know. I've been where you are. I want so much to squeeze your hand right now and wrap you up in the tightest hug. Maybe that's enough. This urge inside of me to make things hurt less, not just for you, but for me too. Welcome in, Raiders, welcome in. Tay-Bat, how are you feeling today? How was your stream? Tell us everything. Welcome, Raiders, welcome. We are currently reading through a workbook about grief. I know that's kind of heavy, so if this isn't where you need to be right now, I can completely understand that. But otherwise, I've got these feeling words here. I've got these feeling words over here for you guys to choose from to let me know how you guys are feeling today. And I'm glad you guys are here. Let me know a little bit about you guys, and yeah, I appreciate it. Good morning, Natasha. How are you feeling? This is our mental health check-in stream. We are here every weekday morning from 8 to 10 a.m. Central Time, and we chat about a variety of different things. I feel peaceful today. Yay, I'm glad to hear that, Natasha. Thanks for sharing. Okay, since we're pausing to lighten the atmosphere, can I share a really, really, really big good news thing? Absolutely, Moonlight. Please, yes. Please do. Please, please. I'm gonna see if I can see money. Money! Money, money! Guys, we have a kitty cat here. I'm hoping he's coming. Money, money, money! Hey, stream was great. Feeling a little drained from a stressful week, but streaming today really helped lift my spirits. Yay, I'm really glad to hear that. Thanks for sharing, friend, and thank you for the raid, and thanks for trusting me with your community, of course. Ooh, I don't know when you got a subscription, but it looks like you have a sub. You have our emotes. I'm feeling super accomplished, proud, and excited because yesterday I finished writing the first draft of my debut novel. It's called The Haunting of Library Inn, and as I revise chapters, I'll be publishing them on my Patreon for subscribers. Woo, 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 woo. Congratulations, that's freaking amazing. I'm so hecking proud of you. I don't even have words for it. I'm so proud of you. Congratulations. That's amazing. I'm so happy for you. You did it in 29 days. That's amazing. I hope that you are like giving yourself all of the accomplishment jar pieces of paper. I think it is smart to talk about grief because death is just a natural part of life. I agree with that, Natasha. I very much agree. And I guess that's something that I'm having to learn right now, and it's difficult. That's for sure. Interesting maybe too. Good morning, Mom. Guys, look, my mommy's here. My mommy's here. My mommy's here. Death doula? Oh, so it's kind of like a hospice thing, but someone who is a little bit separate from hospice in a way. I've been doing anticipatory grief for over 4 years because my mom has dementia and there's no cure. That's so hard, Natasha. When she dies, it'll be peaceful. Yeah, I hear that. I imagine. That's kind of, that's kind of how I felt with, my grandma, because I acknowledge that, she's been in pain for so long. Granted, she's taken meds, but, taking meds it sucks too. Mom, how are you feeling today? Do you need my mood meter, or is the scrolling words okay? Acceptance is the final stage of grieving. What's interesting is let me see, there's this really neat graphic that I found about grief before the grief was relevant to me, ironically. Let me see if I can find it. Here we are. Let me just save this image right now. Helps you with the actual death at home rather than the illness. Gran wants to die at home. How do we help? Okay, Gran died in bed. What the heckins do we do now? So everything from preparing for funeral to washing and dressing the past at home, really being involved with the death rather than hiding it away and shaming it. That's really interesting, Moonlight. Thank you for sharing that. I've never heard of a death doula before, but that's just very that's very interesting. Turds, it didn't save. Moogas, good morning, Moogas. I'm recharged but worried about you. I feel encouraged because you have such good support here. Yes, that's the positive, is that I have a community here to get support from. I will say that I didn't quite tell them what is going on in regards to what happened last night yet, but we will get there. This image here is the image that I saw a couple weeks ago that I thought was really interesting. So I'm going to just put this here for you guys while I keep reading chat. Hold on. Mugus says, man, the husband drove me to work, and so I played video games, and I was so into the game I forgot about stream. You're hilarious, Mugus. Still first in chat, though. I hesitate to use the word, but it's sort of a new trend in that a lot of people are beginning to understand the necessity of grief and how it helps us process loss. Yeah, I like that, Moonlight. That's really interesting. And I wanted to show you guys this image because I thought that it was really interesting. The top, it says, people tend to believe that grief shrinks over time. What really happens is that we grow around our grief. I'm wondering, what do you guys think about this? What are your thoughts when looking at this, if anyone wants to share? I felt like this was like a really good representation of what it looks like to basically, because it's like, there was something, I can't remember exactly, but like we've got the 5 stages of grief, but also the 5 stages of grief tend to happen like interchangeably in a way, or like in different orders. And I feel like this image helps us recognize that we're still gonna feel the things. It's still gonna be there. It's not like we're gonna, there's not like cure for grief. Maybe I don't know if that's the word I'm looking for, but instead it's more like how we handle it and how we grow. Like it's always going to be there, but we are going to continue to grow because we are going to continue going through life. It's a little bit of both. It's a growing process. I just thought I would share with you guys because I thought that this was really interesting, and I think I feel like it's going to be relevant in the future for me as I continue going through my own process and trying to determine, how I'm handling it, I guess, I don't know if I'm making sense. But Mom, I don't know if you just got here, but we're working on, so I got a new workbook. Dang it, having it on that screen washes me out because it's so white. Anyway, so I got a grief workbook yesterday, ironically, before the thing happened. And this is by Self Love Rainbow. I actually got her whole Big Feelings bundle, which let me tell you guys what that came with. It came with Bad Mental Health Days, Feelings Wheel, Grief Workbook, Self-Care Heartbreak, Shame Spiral, the Anger Workbook, and the Trigger Journal. So I'm excited to go through those. It was Black Friday sale, and I'm super stoked. So I was reading through the introduction of this, and I feel like I think I'm gonna like skip through this with her introduction a little bit to kind of get a little bit further through it. Let me read this highlighted. Grief is a complicated thing. It's so unique to each of us based on so many different factors. The relationship to our loved one, how we've experienced grief in the past, the coping mechanisms, and the support systems that we have available to us. And then she says, I can't tell you how to heal. I really can't. It's my intention to guide you to that healing on your own. So about this workbook, this isn't her first workbook. She's created workbooks on anxiety, self-love, worksheets on different topics. Often you'll come across a prompt and your initial reaction will be to answer yes, no, don't. Flesh out those answers. Never settle for a one-word answer when you're writing. These pages will be your outlet. Every feeling that you felt, everything that you've experienced, you're going to talk about it, unravel it, let it out in the open so that you can breathe without the weight of it crushing you. I want you to be able to listen to your grief. Now, Mugus, you have this grief workbook, right? Hopefully you're still listening. That is true. When someone we love dies, it is a tender grief, but when an abuser dies, we feel relief and peace. Right. It's a lot of different things. It's tempting to hide our grief behind things, behind a mental block, behind food, substances, distractions. It hurts less in the moment to find a way to cover it up. But when we do that, the pain and the grief manifests in other ways that we might not be able to attribute to the grieving process. It's like holding your hand over a leak to keep the water in, but the pressure of it finds an outlet somewhere else that you can't see. When we tackle those feelings of grief up front, we're able to stop or minimize the damage that grief can cause throughout the other aspects of our lives. The purpose of this workbook is to allow you to be open to your grief now in this moment, to listen to that sad, heartbroken part inside of you that needs so much love and attention right now. So she's got more, and then, okay, I'm going to read this highlighted part here that's really super hard to read. When I first started creating this workbook, the colors were muted, lots of grays and blacks. The cover was gray with a misty and ethereal quality. When I was about halfway done with this workbook, I realized how sad it was making me to work on it. I honestly dreaded it. I changed things up. I decided to use the colors that make me happy, that remind me that there is happiness outside of the darkness that is grief. It made all the difference. It's not somber, it's not dark, and that's because life isn't either, despite the periods of sadness and darkness. So, grief sucks, is this page here. Talks about a bit more. And now it says, people rally around us. Everyone is sorry. Everyone tells us to call them if we need anything. They are there for us. But what about 5 months later or 5 years later? We bury our grief after a time because we're worried we're holding on too long and we don't want to bother someone else with our messy feelings. You should be past it now. You've got to get over it. Those are the things we tell ourselves. After a time, I didn't want to bring up my grief for many reasons. If I was with those that were close to my mom, I felt guilty for randomly bringing it up, like I was letting something dark and depressing out when everyone was healing or healed. I didn't want to sound like I was dwelling on it. I didn't want to be depressing. Yet, the harsh truth is that you're not just a grieving person. You're grieving a version of your life. There's the before, and there's the after, and they are both vastly different paths. On paper, grief is about the loss of someone you loved. You're supposed to go through the stages of grief, remember them fondly, and do what everyone else does. Function, live, get through it, and move on. Grief isn't just about that one loss. It's one loss and a million subsequent losses. Missed conversations, laughter, advice, milestones that'll always feel as if there's an essential piece missing. Those little parts of you aren't right anymore. They feel different, and you feel different. Part of the grieving process is recognizing that you aren't who you were before the loss. You just aren't. That's another layer to grief. Learning to love this you that's right here and now, and grieving the you that can no longer be. The life that you no longer get to have. The future memories and experiences that you were looking forward to that you have to accept will never happen. That's a seriously heavy thing to grieve. That's something that takes longer than a week or a month to get over and let go. I do ask a favor. If you don't have one already, find a good friend or therapist or peer support to talk to. Let that person begin to fill in those empty spaces with warmth, comfort, advice, or friendships. You are not alone. So, here's the first page with a prompt. And it says, for some people, this may be the most difficult part of the workbook, especially if your grief is new. Hi, Miss Mango. Hello. Good evening. How are you feeling, friend? We are currently talking about, I'm going through this grief workbook that I got yesterday. Just because I want to go through it, and I didn't go through it yesterday when I got it. So I figured at least going through it on stream would help me be more likely to work on it later. But I'm going kind of slow, so I need to like pick it up a little bit. Not slow, I mean, I just want to go through some of the pages and look at them. You haven't finished all of it, Mugus, but you do like it. Good. How are you, Miss Mango? Oh, Natasha, you said many people tackle feeling with rain. Recognize, accept, investigate, and nurture. That's really interesting, Natasha. Thanks for sharing that. That's cool. By the way, the drink we settled on was a garnishless Manhattan, where we infused brandied Bing cherries and lemon peel into the rye for added complexity, and serve in a short glass with a large ice cube for a neat minimalist effect instead of the traditional coupe. I don't know if you still have me on mute, but that sounds really awesome. Thank you for the update. Hi, Sad. I'm Dad. Oh, dear. I'm sad. My cat is missing. Oh, no. Did your kitty, get out, Miss Mango? Or somewhere, lost in the house? Is your kitty an outside cat, too? That's really hard. I can't imagine. I'm gonna go visit a kitty cat later on today myself. At the shelter. Should I go get money? I mean, I'm sure you're probably looking for your kitty too, but I can go get money if you need me to. Maybe he can help a little bit. It's kind of hard to discuss grief and then feel like I'm not making things heavier. But it really is still a part of life. So I'm sticking with it. We got this. We got this, guys. We got this. Plus, it's GeoGuessr day, so we're going to play GeoGuessr in a little bit. So this first page here with prompts, it talks about the before. The things that about your loved one that makes you love them, the memories, the talks, the things you don't want to forget. So who is this workbook about for you? And what's your earliest memory of them? Your favorite memory, funniest memory? What things did they love to do, and what did you love to do together? And then we've got their favorites: music, TV shows, movies, foods, hobbies, objects, places, symbols, color, flowers. What things did you talk about? When or how did they help you the most? What did they teach you about? What's a quality in them that you wish you had yourself? What was the weirdest or oddest thing you loved about them? How would you describe them to a stranger? What things, symbols, or items make you think of them, and why? What was your last conversation, text message? If you can't remember, what would you wish you had said? Okay, Miss Mango, he's very, very old and unwell. It was getting to the point where we were thinking about putting him down. He was laying out in the sun, and when I put the kids to bed, and when I came out, he was gone. Like in the sun inside your house, Miss Mango, or in the sun outside? It's ironic, that we're talking, it's ironic that we're talking about grief right now, because from what I understand, kitties tend to leave or hide when it's time for the end. We've been walking the streets calling for him for the last 5 hours. Big hugs, Miss Mango, big hugs. Big hugs, goodness gracious. I really hope that you're able to find him. Did the kids get to say goodnight to him? Do you want me to go get Munster? I assume, you probably put his food and his litter and stuff out. Treats and stuff. I'm sure everybody knows those things. Oh, that's so difficult. Ooh, this one's really long. So they give you a lot of space for your last conversation. Look at their social media. What things stand out to you? Although my grandma didn't have social media. No, they don't care for him much. They just coexist. So Kitty is you, or you and Bronze's Kitty? Man, Miss Mango. I wish I was there to help. I really wish I was there to help. I hope that you can find him. Man. I don't know what to say other than I want to give you a hug. That's so hard. So then we've got, what were the best gifts given and received between you? Describe a time that you loved them the most. Are there any ways that you wish your relationship had been different? Is there anything you wish you had apologized for? Was there anything left unresolved between you? What would you say now? Going to sleep now, hoping he will show up tomorrow morning. Fingers crossed, Miss Mango. You make sure he's got, his litter, his food, maybe even a pile of treats, although I don't know if there's strays around that'll come and eat those too. Fingers crossed for you, friend. Get some good sleep for as much as you can get. Keep us updated, okay? Big hugs, my friend. Big hugs. And feel free to, drop pictures in the Discord as well of the kitty. We would love to see him. So then we've got what stands out as how you felt around them. What are all the things that made you thankful for them? What are you afraid you'll forget about them? Which is an interesting prompt. And then here's a place for stories and notes. More stories and notes, which is a good idea. Need to start my day of errands and phone calls. Love you. Love you too, Mom. Thanks for stopping by. I'll probably text you after stream. Have a good day. And boop Linda for me, please. Wait, wait, wait. Don't leave yet. Wait, don't leave. Wait, 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 wait.
Linda, listen, Linda. Listen.
Okay, what?
But Linda, honey, look at this. Right now.
Okay.
Okay, then what?
Then you're not listening to me.
Then you're not listening to me.
Linda. Linda. Okay. Listen, Linda. Then there's this. Linda never listens. I bet. It makes sense to me. She's good at coming just after she does what she does. And then it looks like there's another section. The next section after the before is the in-between. This section is for mostly when you need to accept a terminal diagnosis, because in some cases, grief starts before the person passes away. If your grief happens suddenly, feel free to skip this section. So then there's how are you feeling with your feelings? What are your needs? Kind of based on the previous page. Self-care for the in-between. Asking what will help you feel better right now. Just keep breathing. Some breathing exercises. It's okay to fall apart. And then what do you need to give yourself permission to feel, think, do? What did you think or feel the moment you found out? Have you fully processed what's happening? What feelings are you experiencing? I will say this when it comes to this notebook. Feel free to skip some questions and come back to them because sometimes those questions are hard to answer with all the emotions and stuff. Yeah, thanks for saying that, Mugus. Thanks for saying that. I appreciate that. And I'm glad to know that, you've worked through this workbook a little bit. It makes it feel a little bit more familiar to me for some reason. I'm back. The boy is on the bus to school. Welcome back, Bethy, and high five to the boy. Well, he's gone, but if you put stress on yourself to make it linear, it's hard and grief is not linear. Right. Do you have to go in order? Unlikely. And that's also, I will say that's also kind of why I wanted to read through it before sitting down to go through it so that I knew what sections were there that I could potentially work on if I didn't want to, start at the beginning. So what does your loved one need from you right now? How can you make of most of the time you have left together? And this is for that in between for if they haven't passed yet. What does your support system look like? Who can you rely on? What are your fears? Is there anything you want to make peace with? How have you been coping? What are you thankful for during this time? What will lessen the pain just a little bit? What are you struggling with? Write your loved one a letter. So it gives you a space to write a letter. And then here's room for thoughts and notes. And then this section, now we're on page 38 of 99. This is about the loss. This section covers the first 6 months of that particular point in time when your life changes. The moment right before the after and the right after the before, when life stops. This section focuses on how to survive the first initial months of the grieving process. What does your grief look like? And then it's got a variety of emotions and stuff. What are your needs? Again, based on the last page. Write about those first days. And I think that this is when it's going to kind of come into play for me. This might be where I start, honestly, and then maybe do some of the before reflection later. So then there's more pages to write. Did you go to the funeral or services? If so, what did you feel and experience? What would your loved one have loved or hated about it? If you didn't go, why not, and what feelings did that trigger? So I'll get to write about speaking at her funeral. How are you feeling right now? What are you struggling with the most? Do you feel like your loved ones understand how to love and support you right now? How can you reach out? If you could ask for one thing from your support system, what would it be? What words or gestures from those around you have meant the most to you? Has your loss brought you any closer to anyone? Has it created rifts in any of these relationships? Mugus said, so for those that don't know the person that wrote this, their mom had terminal cancer. So this is the reason why I believe they added the in-between. They were open about when they found out and the struggle they had to be present in their grief while their mom was alive, but knew they were not going to make it. Yeah, thanks for sharing that, Mugus. And I think that, that experience, I feel like just makes this workbook more, I guess, like well-rounded in being able to support different kinds of experiences, I don't know if that makes sense. Outside of your loss, what's been the most difficult aspect of this? What other losses are you experiencing right now? What has been your greatest fear since their death? Have you had any unexpected or uncomfortable feelings so far? Do you feel like you have any unhealthy coping mechanisms? And then this section now, it looks like the emotions of grief. We've all heard about the stages of grief. As time goes by and we learn more about grief, most agree that stages, quote, of grief is misleading. It makes grief sound like a linear journey, something that passes through stages 1 through 7 and then it's done. Gonna need extra paper, actual? I can relate to that. Mugus, thank you so much. Thank you so much. Here is the link to the charity that Mugus just graciously donated to. I guess I haven't really mentioned it, but our charity that I have set up here, yesterday was Giving Tuesday, and that's when I set this up. It is for a foundation that helps educate and support people with body-focused repetitive behaviors, which would be things like skin picking, hair pulling, nail biting, cuticle biting, different body-focused behaviors that can cause harm. And so that's what this charity is for, and the link for them is in chat here. Last year, I actually had the founder of a different foundation called Picking Me Foundation on stream for an interview, and I can give you guys a link to that stream if you guys are interested. Thank you again, Mugus, for that donation. I really appreciate it. There are stages, but non-linear. Right, Natasha, right. So let's talk about the range of emotions and feelings that we experience during our journey. Denial, bargaining, depression, anger, acceptance, guilt, distraction, detachment, anxiety, helplessness. And so it looks like with all of these different sections or feelings, it looks like she talks about the feeling and then she includes like a self-care section of like, so, if you realize that you're feeling that way, here's like the self-care kind of thought about it. And then here is a spot about tracking your grief. Here's an example of, what your grief might look like. Okay. And so here's all those different emotions that she just talked about. And kind of how they're just kind of everywhere. This is really interesting. And so then it gives us a chart to do the same. Your emotions. Use these pages to keep track of your experiences with each emotion. You can track triggers, coping skills, what makes you feel better, or your overall thoughts. I think this is going to be interesting for me, and probably relevant for what occurred last night. Bargaining, depression, anger, acceptance, guilt, distraction, detachment, anxiety, helplessness. Then we've got self-care for loss. These are some self-care suggestions for the first 6 months after your loss. And so here's different suggestions that she's got. Self-soothing. It's so important to reach out to your people and your loved ones. Let them wrap their arms around you. Let them talk you through the darkness. Let them be there for you. And then write a note of comfort to yourself. Then it talks about touch as a way to ground yourself. So suggestions with touch. Just like anything else, you can only talk to safe people. Right, Natasha, right. So ideas for self-soothing. Then here's smell. So like some ideas for smell. It seems like it's like, it looks like it's using like your different senses for ways to like help soothe. So then this one is sight. Some ideas about sight. This one is about taste. Sound. Find your healing ritual. So here's some examples, and then a place to write your healing ritual, then a place for thoughts, and then here's the after. Here's something I want you to know. Grief lasts for years. Grief can resurface after being dormant. And so it looks like in this section, she wants to talk about, basically what happens even if it's not recent. Dual process grief. This is the idea that people bounce back and forth between different types of grief categories. Has anyone heard of dual process grief? This is by Margaret Stoeb and Hank Shute. They came up with the dual process model of coping with bereavement. And then we've got self-care for the after. What does your grief look like right now? Honoring your loved one. Birthday ideas for the anniversary of their death, ideas for holidays and special occasions, and then your present self. Just kind of going through like what your life is like right now, understanding yourself. How have you changed from the beginning of this journey? How do you feel on their birthday and holidays? What would they love and be happy about in your life? What has been the hardest milestones without them? How are you honoring their life as you move forward? What things about your loved one have stayed with you? What do you want your loved one to know? What lessons would you give someone else going through grief? And then thoughts, notes, and the end. So that is this grief workbook that we just went through together. I think it's going to be pretty interesting and fairly helpful for me anyway. So I'm going to be excited to work through this and get to process a little bit better. It kind of feels like it gives me something tangible to hang on to rather than just like floating along and hoping I'm doing it right. You know what I mean?